My name is Maya, and I'm 32 years old. The night my husband casually announced over dinner that he'd sold all my jewelry to pay our bills, I smiled and nodded like the dutiful wife I'd been trained to be. His mother applauded him for being so practical. Everyone laughed when he joked about my jewelry finally being useful. But what started as a humiliating dinner confession turned into something far more sinister when a detective showed up at my door with photographs, bank statements, and questions I couldn't answer. The man I'd loved for 7 years had secrets buried so deep that uncovering them would either destroy me or set me free. I just didn't know which one yet. If you're watching this, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story about family, money, and the power of knowing your worth is one you won't want to miss. The moment Eric announced it, I felt the room tilt slightly, as though the floor beneath me had turned to water. "I sold your jewelry today," he said, reaching for the bread basket with the casual ease of someone commenting on the weather. "We needed to pay the bills." We were at Helen's house, Eric's mother, surrounded by the warm glow of her dining room chandelier and the rich smell of her famous pot roast. His sister Lauren was there with her husband, and everyone had been laughing just seconds before. Now they all turned to look at me. Helen's face lit up with approval. "Oh, Eric, how practical of you." She reached across the table to pat his hand, her rings catching the light. "That's what I call being a responsible provider." I felt my throat tighten. My jewelry, the pieces my grandmother had given me before she died, the earrings I wore on our wedding day, the sapphire pendant my father bought me when I graduated college. All of it gone. And he'd done it without asking, without even telling me beforehand. I forced my lips into something resembling a smile and nodded, picking up my water glass to give my trembling hands something to do. "Oh," I managed to say. "I see." Lauren laughed, that bright tinkling sound she makes when she's uncomfortable. "Well, at least you never wore most of it anyway, right, Maya? Jewelry just sits there collecting dust." "Exactly," Eric said, cutting into his roast with confident strokes. He looked at me with that familiar smile, the one that had made me fall in love with him 7 years ago. "At least now your jewelry's finally doing something useful, feeding us." He gestured around the table with his fork. "Right?" The room erupted in laughter. Helen practically doubled over, dabbing at her eyes with her napkin. Even Lauren's husband Mark chuckled, though he at least had the decency to look slightly apologetic when he caught my eye. I felt heat creeping up my neck, spreading across my cheeks. But I kept smiling. I kept nodding. I even managed a small laugh that sounded hollow in my own ears. What else could I do? Make a scene? A cry in front of his family? They'd only see me as dramatic, ungrateful, selfish. Helen would tell everyone how I valued things over people, how I didn't appreciate her son's sacrifices. So I swallowed the humiliation like a bitter pill and pushed food around my plate for the rest of dinner, barely tasting anything. Later that night, in the darkness of our bedroom, Eric came up behind me as I stood at the window. He wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me close. His breath was warm against my ear. "You're not upset, are you?" he whispered. "You never wore them, Maya. It's not a big deal." I wanted to pull away, to scream that it was a big deal, that those pieces held memories he couldn't possibly understand. But his grip was firm, almost possessive, and his voice had that edge to it, the one that meant he expected agreement. "I'll replace them someday," he continued, resting his chin on my shoulder. "When things are better. When the business picks up. I promise." I nodded silently, staring out at the dark street below. The street lamp flickered, casting uneven shadows across the pavement. "I did it for us," he said softly. "You understand that, right?" "Right," I heard myself say. "For us." He kissed my temple and went to brush his teeth, humming contentedly. I remained at the window, feeling something cold settle in my chest, something I couldn't quite name yet. The next morning, after Eric left for work, I went to my dresser with my coffee cup still warm in my hands. I opened the top drawer where I kept my jewelry box, the carved mahogany one my grandmother had given me when I was 16. It was completely empty. Not just the valuable pieces. Everything. The cheap silver bangles I'd bought at a street fair. The friendship bracelet my best friend made me in college. Even my wedding earrings, the simple pearl drops my mother had worn at her own wedding and passed down to me. Those weren't worth anything. Why would he take those? I sank onto the edge of the bed, staring at the empty velvet interior of the box. The indentations where rings had rested were still visible. Ghost impressions of what used to be mine. My hands were shaking as I picked up my phone and opened our banking app. We had a joint account. Eric had insisted on it after we got married, saying it made things simpler. I scrolled through the recent transactions, looking for a large deposit. Nothing. No deposit in the last week. No large cash withdrawals either, except for the usual ATM visits. I checked the previous month. Still nothing that would indicate a jewelry sale. Maybe he deposited it into a different account? But why would he do that? I called him. He answered on the third ring, his voice distracted. Hey, babe. What's up? Eric, I was just looking at the account. Where did you deposit the money from the jewelry? A pause. The buyer paid cash. I haven't had a chance to deposit it yet. It's in the safe at the office. Oh. I twisted the edge of my shirt between my fingers. How much did you get? About $3,000. Enough to cover this month's mortgage and the car payment. $3,000. For my grandmother's diamond ring alone, the appraisal had been $5,000. And that was years ago. That seems low, I said carefully. Maya. His voice took on that patient tone, the one that made me feel like a child. The buyer drives a hard bargain. And it's not like we had time to shop around. We needed the money now. I'll call you back. I'm in a meeting. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there on our bed, phone in hand, staring at the empty jewelry box. Something wasn't right. But what could I do? March into his office and demand answers? He'd tell me I was being paranoid, emotional, ungrateful. Helen called that afternoon. Maya, darling, she said, her voice dripping with that particular brand of sweetness that always preceded criticism. I wanted to check on you. You seemed a bit quiet at dinner last night.
I'm fine, Ellen.
Thank you. Good, good. You know, a good wife knows when to sacrifice for the family. My mother taught me that. She sold her engagement ring once to help my father through a rough patch. That's what love is, putting your husband's needs first. I closed my eyes. I understand. I'm sure you do, dear. Eric is such a good man. We're all so lucky to have him. After she hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine, even though it was only 3 in the afternoon. I drank it standing at the kitchen counter, watching dust particles float through the afternoon sunlight. Over the next few days, something shifted in Eric. He became oddly cheerful, almost giddy. He whistled while making coffee in the morning. He spent longer on phone calls, stepping out onto the balcony or closing himself in his study with the door locked. Business is picking up, he said when I asked. Some new opportunities. Things are looking good, babe. But our joint account didn't reflect any new income. If anything, we seemed tighter on money than before. When I tried to use my credit card at the grocery store, it was declined. Eric said it was probably a glitch, that he'd call the bank. Then the package arrived. I heard the doorbell while I was folding laundry. A delivery man stood there with a small box, asking for Eric's signature. I signed for it instead, curious. Inside was a watch. A beautiful, clearly expensive watch with a leather band and a face that gleamed even in the dim hallway light. I turned it over. Swiss-made. The kind that cost thousands. When Eric came home that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the open box in front of me. What's this? I asked quietly. His eyes widened slightly, then he smiled.
Oh, that.
It's a gift from a client. Closing bonus for a big deal I helped broker. What client gives a watch this expensive? High-end client. They do business differently. He crossed the room and took the watch from the box, fastening it around his wrist. You worry too much. This is good news. Means more clients like this could be coming. We can barely afford groceries, Eric. Which is why I'm working so hard. He cupped my face in his hands. Trust me, okay? Everything's going to be fine. But I didn't trust him. Not anymore. That cold feeling in my chest had grown into something else, suspicion, fear, anger all tangled together. 2 days later, everything changed. I was home alone, trying to work on my laptop at the dining table, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. A man stood on our doorstep. Middle-aged, average height, wearing a gray suit and carrying a leather briefcase. His face was kind but serious. "Mrs. Davis?" he asked. "Yes."
I'm Detective James Harris.
He showed me a badge. "May I come in?" "It's about a recent jewelry sale." My heart stopped. I stepped back automatically, letting him enter. My mind raced. Was the jewelry stolen? Had Eric somehow bought stolen pieces and given them to me? Detective Harris sat on our sofa, opening his briefcase with practiced efficiency. "Mrs. Davis, I need to ask you some questions about jewelry sold approximately 10 days ago. Your husband claimed he had your permission to sell items valued at approximately $15,000. $15,000. Not $3,000. 15. He said it was for bills. He said he got $3,000. Harris pulled out a folder. "That's not what the records show." He spread photographs across our coffee table. My jewelry, each piece carefully photographed against a white background. My grandmother's ring, my wedding earrings, the sapphire pendant, all of them. These items were sold to a private buyer, Harris continued. The transaction was flagged because of the amount and the method of payment. "I don't understand." He pulled out another document, a bank statement, but not from any account I recognized. "This account was opened 3 months ago in Dubai, under your husband's name. The funds from the jewelry sale were transferred here, minus the commission for the broker." I stared at the numbers. The account balance showed over $200,000. That's impossible. "Mrs. Davis, I need to ask you, were you aware of this account?"
No.
"No, I've never seen this before." Detective Harris studied my face for a long moment, then seemed to believe me. "I need you to understand something. This account has been flagged as part of a larger investigation. We're looking into possible money laundering activities. Several transactions in the past 6 months have raised red flags." The room spun. Money laundering.
Dubai.
Secret accounts. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be my husband. "I know this is a lot to process," Harris said gently, "but I need you to be very careful right now. Don't tell your husband about this visit. Don't mention that you've seen these documents."
Can you do that?
I nodded mutely. After he left, I sat in the silent house for hours, watching the light fade outside the windows. When Eric came home, I pretended everything was normal. I smiled. I asked about his day. I served dinner. And the whole time, I could barely look at him, because sitting across from me at our kitchen table, eating the pasta I'd made, laughing at something on his phone, that was a stranger. A man I'd loved for 7 years but apparently never knew at all. When I finally confronted Eric about the detective's visit, I tried to keep my voice steady. We were in the living room, him on the sofa with his laptop, me standing by the window with my arms crossed. "Someone came by today," I said. "A detective. He was asking about the jewelry." Eric's fingers paused on the keyboard for just a fraction of a second. Then he resumed typing. "A detective?" "Detective Harris." He showed me a bank statement, an account in Dubai, in your name. Now he closed the laptop. His face shifted through several expressions before settling on concerned confusion. "Maya, this is exactly what I was worried about. Scam artists target people after big transactions. They probably found out about the sale somehow and are trying to." He had a badge. A real one. Fake badges are easy to get. Eric stood and crossed to me, taking my hands in his. "Listen to me. There are people who prey on couples going through financial stress. They show up with official-looking documents and try to scare you. Ignore it. I'll call the police department tomorrow and report him." But I'd seen something in his eyes when I first mentioned the detective. A flicker of fear. Real fear. "The bank statement showed over $200,000, Eric. Which should tell you it's fake," he said, squeezing my hands. "Where would I get that kind of money?" "I sold your jewelry for $3,000. That's it." I wanted to believe him. God, how badly I wanted to believe him. But the doubt had planted itself too deeply now. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I went behind his back. I drove to the jewelry store where I'd originally had my grandmother's ring appraised, years ago. The same older woman, Mrs. Chun, still worked there.
She remembered me.
That beautiful diamond, she said, smiling. I don't forget stones like that. What can I do for you today? My husband sold it recently, I said, trying to sound casual. I'm trying to track down the serial number for insurance purposes. Would you have it in your records? She disappeared into the back office and returned with a thick ledger. After flipping through pages, she found the entry and wrote down the number. Actually, she said, looking up with a puzzled expression, I just saw this number last week. It came through our system. My heart hammered. What do you mean? Someone resold it through our network. It went for $18,000. I remember because I told the seller he could have gotten more at auction, but he wanted a quick sale. 18,000. Eric had said 3,000 total. For all the pieces. Do you know who sold it? She shook her head. Private transaction. But it was definitely your ring. The serial number matches perfectly. I thanked her and left in a daze. In my car, I gripped the steering wheel and let the truth wash over me. He'd lied. About the amount. About everything. That night, Eric worked late.
Or so he said.
He called at 8 to tell me not to wait up. Big project deadline, he explained. I'll probably sleep in my office tonight to focus. Okay, I said flatly. You sound upset. I'm tired. Get some rest, babe. Love you. I didn't say it back. I just hung up. The next day, my mother came to visit. She'd been widowed for 5 years and had a particular kind of clarity that comes from surviving hard times. We sat in my kitchen, drinking tea, and I found myself telling her everything, the jewelry, the detective, the lies. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Maya, I'm going to tell you something I learned too late with your father. Men who hide their accounts often hide their guilt. What do you mean? Your father had a separate bank account I didn't know about. I found out after he died. It wasn't for anything sinister. He was saving to surprise me with a trip to Europe. But the principle is the same. When a man keeps financial secrets, there's always a reason. She paused. The question is whether that reason is love or something darker. Her words stayed with me. That afternoon, I did something I'd been avoiding. I went into Eric's study. He kept it locked when he wasn't home, but I knew where he hid the key, in the desk drawer in the hallway, taped to the underside. My hands shook as I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room smelled like his cologne. His desk was neat, almost obsessively so. I tried the drawers. Most were unlocked and contained the usual: pens, notepads, charging cables. But the bottom drawer on the right was locked. I searched for another key, checked his desk organizer, looked under the desk mat, even checked inside his stapler. Nothing. Finally, in frustration, I grabbed a letter opener and tried to pry it open. The lock was cheap, and it gave way after few attempts. The drawer rolled open. Inside was a folder stuffed with papers. Hotel receipts. Lots of them. All from luxury hotels. The Ritz, the Four Seasons, the Waldorf Astoria. Dates spanning the last 3 months. There was also a card key. The kind hotels give you for your room. Written on the paper sleeve, Dubai Business Conference, room 2247. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone and photographed everything. Every receipt, every page. Then I carefully put everything back, relocked the drawer as best I could, and left the study exactly as I'd found it. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those hotel receipts. Business conferences? How many business conferences did one person need? The next morning, Detective Harris called. Mrs. Davis, I need to see you. Can you come to my office this afternoon? What's this about? It's better if we talk in person. I met him at a small office building downtown. His office was sparse, just a desk, 2 chairs, and a filing cabinet. He offered me coffee, which I declined. I'm going to be direct with you, he said, sitting across from me. Your husband's name has appeared in connection with a financial laundering network that Interpol has been tracking for over a year. The word Interpol made my stomach drop. This isn't just about jewelry, Harris continued. The jewelry sale was what flagged his account, but when we dug deeper, we found a pattern. Multiple high-value items being moved through various intermediaries, funds being transferred through shell companies, accounts in multiple countries. Are you saying my husband is a criminal? I'm saying your husband is involved in something much bigger than you know. And Mrs. Davis, I need you to be very careful. These kinds of operations, when they start to unravel, things can get dangerous. I felt tears burning in my eyes. I don't understand how this is possible. He's a consultant. He helps small businesses with their marketing. How could he? That may be his cover, Harris said gently. Or it may have started legitimately and evolved into something else. We're still piecing it together. But I need you to trust me. Don't confront him. Not yet. Then what am I supposed to do? For now, act normal. If you find anything, documents, computer files, anything unusual, contact me immediately. I drove home in a fog. The world outside my car window seemed surreal, too bright, too normal. How was everyone just going about their day when my entire life was collapsing? At home, the mail had arrived. I sorted through it mechanically. Bills, advertisements, a bank statement. I froze. The envelope was addressed to Eric, but the return address wasn't our regular bank. It was from some institution I'd never heard of, Premier Trust Holdings. I opened it. Inside was a notice. Second warning. Foreclosure proceedings will begin in 30 days unless payment is received for outstanding balance of $47,000. Foreclosure. Our house. But we'd never missed a mortgage payment. Had we? I checked our joint account again. The mortgage payments had been going out automatically every month, just like always. So where was this coming from? I called the bank. After being transferred 3 times, I finally got someone who could help. Mrs. Davis, that notice is for a home equity line of credit that was opened on your property 18 months ago. I didn't open a line of credit. A pause. According to our records, both you and Mr. Davis signed the paperwork. That's impossible. Would you like me to email you copies of the signature pages?
Yes.
Please. 5 minutes later, they arrived. I opened the attachment with trembling hands. There was my signature, right next to Eric's. But I'd never signed this. Never even seen this document before. The signature looked like mine. It was close, but the date was from a Tuesday when I'd been at my mother's house all day. I remembered because she'd had minor surgery and I'd stayed overnight to help her. He'd forged my signature. That evening, I heard Eric's car in the driveway. I quickly closed my laptop and tried to compose myself. When he walked in, he was carrying flowers, a bouquet of pink roses. For you, he said, kissing my cheek. I know I've been working a lot. Thought you could use something pretty. I took them mechanically. Thank you. What's wrong? You seem tense. Nothing. Just tired. He studied my face. You sure? Yes. But he wasn't convinced. Over dinner, he kept watching me, and I could feel his suspicion growing. I tried to act normal, asked about his day, laughed at his jokes. But it felt like a performance, and I could tell he sensed it. That night, he pulled me close in bed. Maya, if something's bothering you, you can tell me. We're a team, remember? A team. The word nearly made me laugh. Or cry. I wasn't sure which. I know, I whispered. I'm just in my head about work stuff. Don't worry. He kissed my forehead and rolled over, falling asleep within minutes. But I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to him breathe. The man sleeping next to me had forged my signature, had opened accounts in my name, had lied about money, about jewelry, about business trips.
Who was he?
Had I ever really known? And what was I supposed to do now? The next morning, I waited until Eric left for work. Then I picked up my phone and called Detective Harris. Tell me everything, I said when he answered. I want to help. There was a brief silence. Then, are you sure? Once you start down this path. I'm sure. Whatever he's done, whatever he's involved in, I need to know. And I need to stop him. Okay, Harris said. Then let's meet. Today. There's a lot you need to understand about who your husband really is. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, my heart pounding but my resolve hardening with every step. I'd spent too long being the grateful wife, the supportive partner, the woman who swallowed her doubts and smiled through dinner. No more. It was time to find out the truth. The diner Detective Harris chose was 40 minutes outside the city, the kind of place where truckers stopped for coffee and nobody looked twice at anyone else. I sat in a booth near the back, my hands wrapped around a cup of tea I couldn't drink. Harris arrived with a worn manila folder that he placed between us. He looked tired, like he'd been up all night. Before I show you this, he said, I need to know you're prepared. What you're about to see will change how you look at your marriage. Once you know, you can't unknow. I'm already there, I said. Show me. He opened the folder. Inside were documents, bank transfers, photographs of documents, printouts of emails. He walked me through each one methodically. Your husband's primary operation appears to be art and antiques, Harris began. He purchases items, usually jewelry, sometimes small sculptures or paintings, from private sellers. Then he moves them through a network of dealers, each time marking up the value and creating false provenance.
Provenance.
The history of ownership. It makes items seem more valuable. Your grandmother's ring, for example. He pulled out a photograph. According to the paperwork Eric generated, it once belonged to a minor European royal. Complete fiction, but it tripled the sale price. I stared at the picture of my ring. So, he's a con artist.
Partially.
But it goes deeper. These inflated sales create large transactions that can be used to move money for other purposes. Money that needs to look legitimate. Money laundering.
Exactly.
Someone pays Eric in cash, drug money, illegal gambling profits, whatever. Eric buys jewelry or art, sells it through his network at an inflated price, and returns the money to his clients clean. They lost maybe 20% in the process, but now the money looks like it came from legitimate art sales. My stomach turned. How long has he been doing this? We think about 3 years. It started small, a few thousand here and there. But in the last 6 months, the volume increased dramatically. He's moved over $1 million in that time. $1 million. And we were supposedly struggling to pay our mortgage. Harris pulled out another document. This is the jewelry buyer. His name is Dmitry Volkov. He's a dealer who's been on our radar for years but has stayed just clean enough to avoid prosecution. Your jewelry went through him. How much did he really pay? For all the pieces together, based on Volkov's records, approximately $48,000. I closed my eyes. Eric had told me $3,000. Where's the rest of the money? That's the interesting part. Harris pulled out a bank statement, the one from Dubai I'd seen before. Some went here. But we've traced money to at least 4 other accounts. Cayman Islands. Switzerland.
Panama.
He's diversified. Why Dubai? That's where one of his major clients is based. A businessman named Rashid Al-Mansouri. We believe Al-Mansouri is the main source of the funds Eric's been cleaning. He has interests in construction, real estate, and, according to Interpol, several less legal ventures. My head spun. And the hotel receipts I found? Harris's expression darkened slightly. That's the personal side of this. The receipts you photographed matched several dates when Eric was supposedly at business conferences. We checked. There were no conferences on those dates at those hotels. Then what was he doing? Mrs. Davis. One of the receipts was for a room at the Ritz-Carlton in Dubai. We pulled the hotel's records. The room was registered to Eric Davis, but according to CCTV footage, he wasn't alone. He slid a photograph across the table. Blurry security camera footage showing Eric in a hotel lobby. Next to him was a woman, tall, dark hair, expensive clothes. She was laughing at something he said. Who is she? Her name is Tara Quinn. She identifies herself as an international art consultant, but her real job is recruitment. She connects wealthy clients with people like your husband who can move money quietly. I stared at the image. Tara's hand was on Eric's arm. They looked comfortable together. Intimate. They're having an affair, I said flatly. Harris hesitated. We believe so. But Mrs. Davis, Tara Quinn, is more than just a mistress. She's his business partner. She brings him clients and he handles the transactions. According to our sources, they split the commission. So Eric had a whole other life. A business partner. A lover. Money hidden in half a dozen countries. And all while I sat at home worrying about declined credit cards and making dinner. There's one more thing, Harris said quietly. He pulled out another document. We obtained a warrant for Eric's computer at his office. On it, we found documents with forged signatures.
Meaning? Yes.
Several. Bank applications, loan documents, account authorizations. He's been using your identity to create additional financial leverage. If this goes to trial, prosecutors will need to prove you weren't a willing participant. The words hit me like ice water. They think I'm involved? Not currently. But Eric has been careful to create a paper trail that connects you to some of these transactions. If he needs a scapegoat, he's built one. I couldn't breathe. The diner walls seemed to close in. What am I supposed to do? For now, act normal. We need more evidence. Specifically, we need to trace the money to Al-Mansuri and prove the laundering operation. That requires time and careful monitoring. Harris leaned forward. I know this is hard, but you're in the best position to help us. You're inside his life. If you can get access to his computer, his files, anything that shows the money trail. You want me to spy on my husband? I want you to help us stop a criminal operation and protect yourself in the process. I sat back against the cracked vinyl booth. Outside, traffic hummed past on the highway. Normal people going to normal jobs, living normal lives. Had I ever been one of them? Or had I been living a lie all along? Okay, I heard myself say. What do I need to do? Over the next week, I became someone I didn't recognize. During the day, I was Maya Davis, loving wife, smiling and supportive. At night, when Eric fell asleep, I was someone else entirely.
I started with his laptop.
He always locked it, but I watched him type his password one morning, leaning over his shoulder pretending to ask about dinner plans while my eyes tracked his fingers. That night, I used it. His files were meticulously organized. Folders labeled by client name, each containing invoices, contracts, and shipping documents. I photographed everything with my phone, uploading it to a secure folder Harris had set up. One folder was labeled QH Holdings. Inside were spreadsheets showing transactions dating back 2 years. Money in, money out, percentages calculated. The amounts were staggering, hundreds of thousands of dollars moving through various accounts each month. I sent it all to Harris. The next day, I got bolder. I searched Eric's email. Most of it was legitimate business correspondence, but buried in a subfolder labeled Archive were exchanges with Tara Quinn. Room 2247 confirmed for Tuesday. Can't wait to see you. Deal with Al-Mansuri closed. $400,000 moving through next week. You're brilliant. My wife is asking questions. Need to be more careful. That last one stopped me cold. My wife.
He was talking about me.
Warning Tara that I was becoming a problem. I took screenshots and sent them to Harris. Then I cleared the browsing history and shut down the laptop, my hands shaking. That evening, Eric came home with takeout. Chinese food from our favorite place. He kissed my cheek and started setting out containers. How was your day? He asked.
Fine.
Quiet. I helped him plate the food, playing my role. Yours?
Long.
But good.
He poured us wine.
Hey, I was thinking, maybe we should take a trip. Get away for a weekend. You seem stressed. That would be nice. Great. I'll look at some places. He raised his glass. To us. I clinked my glass against his and forced myself to drink. Across the table, he smiled at me with what looked like genuine affection. But I knew now it was a performance, just like mine. My phone buzzed. A text from Harris. Need to talk. Tomorrow. Important. The next day, I met him at the same diner. This time he looked grim. We've been monitoring Eric's communications, he said without preamble. Last night, he made a call to Al-Mansuri. The conversation was encrypted, but we caught fragments. They're planning to move a significant amount of money next week. We think it's the biggest transaction yet, potentially over $2 million. $2 million. And here's the problem. The call also referenced the account switch, and MD Harris looked at me seriously. Mrs. Davis, we think he's preparing to frame you. Create evidence that you were the one running this operation while he was just the dutiful husband. My blood ran cold. Why would he do that? Insurance. If we get close to arresting him, he'll claim he was coerced by you, that you were the mastermind, and he was trying to protect you. With your forged signatures on all those documents, it might be convincing enough to create reasonable doubt. That's insane. It's actually pretty smart. Sociopathic, but smart. Harris pulled out more papers. We found something else. A storage unit rented under your name. We got a warrant to search it. Inside were artifacts, ancient pottery, supposedly from Syria. All fake, but documented as real. If authorities raided it, you'd be charged with trafficking stolen antiquities. I felt nauseous. He's been planning this. For how long? Probably since before you even knew anything was wrong. These kinds of operators always have an exit strategy. What do? You keep gathering evidence, but you need to be more careful. If he suspects he might accelerate his timeline. Harris paused. There's one more thing. Tara Quinn tried to contact me yesterday.
What?
Why? She wants to make a deal. She's willing to testify against Eric in exchange for immunity. She claims he's the one who orchestrated everything, that she was just a middleman. Do you believe her? I don't know. She's smart enough to see which way the wind is blowing. If she thinks Eric's going down, she'll save herself. He looked at me seriously. But if she testifies, she's going to blame you too. Paint you as an accomplice. She knows you're the weak link in Eric's defenses. I sat back, feeling the weight of it all. So I'm trapped. If I do nothing, Eric frames me. If I help you, Tara frames me. Unless we can prove both of them are lying. Which means we need the source documents. The real records that show the money trail from Al-Mansuri to Eric, bypassing you entirely. Where would those be? Probably on Eric's phone. Or in a safety deposit box somewhere. Maybe with his lawyer. Harris drummed his fingers on the table. We need something definitive. Something that proves you're a victim, not a participant. I thought about the USB drive I'd seen months ago, when I'd been looking for batteries in Eric's desk. He'd quickly closed the drawer when he caught me, claiming it was client files, boring stuff. At the time, I hadn't thought anything of it. There might be something, I said slowly. A USB drive. He keeps it hidden in his desk. Can you get it? Maybe. He's supposed to go to New York next week for meetings. If he actually goes, then you search. Thoroughly. Photograph everything, but don't remove anything unless absolutely necessary. We can't tip him off. I nodded, my mouth dry. Harris reached across the table and briefly touched my hand. I know this is terrifying, but you're doing the right thing. And we're going to make sure you're protected. I wanted to believe him. But as I drove home that afternoon, watching the familiar streets pass by, I felt utterly alone. The man I'd trusted with my life, the man I'd married, was a stranger who'd been systematically destroying me from the inside. And now I had to pretend everything was fine while helping to build the case that would put him in prison. That night, Eric was in an unusually good mood. He'd made dinner, pasta with garlic bread, my favorite. He'd even lit candles. What's the occasion? I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Do I need an occasion to treat my wife? He pulled out my chair. I know things have been tense. I want you to know I appreciate you, Maya. I really do. I sat down, watching him serve the food. His movements were practiced, graceful. Everything about him seemed genuine. But I knew now it was all a lie. Eric, I said carefully, the other day I got a notice from Premier Trust Holdings about a home equity line. Did you? Already taken care of, he interrupted smoothly. Bank error. They confused us with another Davis family. I cleared it up. Another lie. I could see it in the slight tension around his eyes.
Oh,
Good. We ate in silence for a moment. Then Eric said, I have to go to New York next week. 2 days, maybe 3. Will you be okay? My heart raced. Of course. What's the trip for? New client. Potential big account. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. When I get back, things are going to be different. Better. I promise. I squeezed back, matching his smile. I believe you. But what I was really thinking was 2 days. I'd have 2 days to find that USB drive and whatever else he was hiding. 2 days to save myself. That night, I lay in bed beside him, listening to his breathing slow into sleep. My mind raced with possibilities, with fears, with the terrible knowledge that the man beside me had been planning my destruction for months, maybe years. I thought about Detective Harris's warning, about Tara Quinn's offer to testify, about forged signatures and hidden accounts and safety deposit boxes I didn't know existed. And I made a decision. I wasn't going to be anyone's scapegoat. Not Eric's. Not Tara's. Not the FBI's. I was going to find the truth. All of it. And then I was going to make sure that everyone who'd used me, who'd lied to me, who'd tried to destroy my life, I was going to make sure they paid. Eric stirred beside me, rolling over. In his sleep, his hand reached out and found mine, holding it loosely. Once, that gesture would have made me feel safe. Now it felt like a threat. I closed my eyes and waited for morning, already planning my next move. The hunt for evidence would begin the moment Eric's car left the driveway. And this time, I wasn't going to leave any stone unturned. My jewelry was gone. My savings were gone. My sense of safety, my trust, my belief in the man I'd married, all gone. But I still had one thing left, my determination to survive. And that, I was discovering, might be the most valuable thing of all. The morning Eric left for New York, I played my role perfectly. I made him coffee, packed him a lunch, kissed him goodbye at the door. I even waved as his car disappeared down the street. Then I closed the door, locked it, and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for days. I had maybe 48 hours. Maybe less if he came back early. I couldn't waste a single minute. I started in his study. The locked drawer I'd forced open before had been replaced with a new lock. He must have noticed the damage. But this time I was prepared. I'd watched YouTube videos on picking simple drawer locks. With a paperclip and a bobby pin, it took me 20 minutes, but finally the lock clicked. Inside were new documents. More hotel receipts, but these were different. Not just luxury hotels. These were from budget motels. Cash payments. Dates that went back years, long before the Dubai trips. My hands shook as I photographed each one. What were these for? Meeting places? Drop locations? Underneath the receipts was a burner phone. I turned it on. Only one contact saved. V. The message history was sparse but chilling. V. Package received. 40K clean. Eric. Next one bigger. 100K. Friday. V. Location? Eric. Usual place. Bring the paperwork. I scrolled through months of similar exchanges. Short, cryptic, always about money and packages and locations. This wasn't just money laundering. This was an operation. A real, organized criminal operation. I photographed everything and moved to his computer. This time, I knew exactly what I was looking for. I opened his email and searched for Sapphire, a term I'd seen in one of Detective Harris's documents. An email chain appeared between Eric and someone named Ard Al-Mansuri, Rashid, the Dubai businessman Harris had mentioned. The emails were carefully worded, discussing shipments and inventory and processing fees. But the amounts mentioned were massive. 300,000, $500,000, once even a full $1 million. One email made me stop cold. The secondary account under MD is ready. If anything goes wrong, documentation will point there first. You'll be clear. MD Maya Davis.
Me.
He'd created an entire backup plan with me as the fall guy. If he got caught, everything would lead back to accounts in my name, transactions with my forged signature, evidence planted to make me look guilty. I felt rage burning in my chest. How long had he been planning this? Since before we married? Had he ever loved me? Or was I always just a convenient cover? I copied everything to the USB drive Detective Harris had given me. Then I kept searching. In a folder labeled Insurance, I found something that made my blood run cold. Scanned copies of passports. One was Eric's, but with a different name, Michael Edwards. The photo was him, but everything else was fake. The second passport was mine. Same photo from my real passport, but the name read Michelle Edwards. Wife of Michael. We had fake identities. Ready to go. Ready to disappear. I photographed them with trembling hands. Then I noticed a third document, flight itinerary. 2 tickets to Buenos Aires, Argentina. Departure date. 3 weeks from now. He was planning to run. And he'd been planning to take me with him. Or make it look like I'd run with him. My phone buzzed. A text from Eric. Meeting's going well. Miss you already. Love you. I stared at the words. How could he send something like that while building a case to destroy me? How could anyone be so calculating, so cold? I typed back. Miss you too. Be safe. Then I kept searching. The USB drive I'd remembered was taped under his desk drawer, just where I'd seen it months ago. I pulled it out and plugged it into his computer. The drive was password protected. I tried his usual passwords, our wedding date, his mother's birthday, his own birthday. Nothing worked. I tried my birthday. Still nothing. Frustrated, I tried Sapphire. The files opened. Inside were folders organized by year. I opened the most recent one. Bank statements from accounts I'd never seen. Wire transfer receipts. And something else, audio files. I clicked on the first one. Eric's voice filled the room, through the computer speakers. Told you, Victor, the system is clean. Every transaction looks legitimate. Art sales, antique purchases, all documented. Another voice, gruff and unfamiliar. And if the feds come sniffing? Then everything points to my wife. I've been careful. Her signatures on everything. Her SSN on the accounts. She'll take the fall while I'm already in Buenos Aires. The other man laughed. Cold, Davis. That's cold. It's survival. She's collateral damage. I stopped the playback, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. Collateral damage. That's all I was to him.
A tool.
A shield. Someone to throw to the wolves when the time came. I copied every file from the USB drive. Every bank statement, every audio recording, every document. Then I carefully put everything back exactly as I'd found it, relocked the drawer, and sat down in his desk chair. For a long moment, I just stared at the wall. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of thinking I knew this man, thinking we were building a life together. And all of it had been a lie. My phone rang. Detective Harris. Mrs. Davis, we have a problem. Tara Quinn just went public. She gave an interview to a financial crimes reporter claiming she's been cooperating with authorities to expose a money laundering ring, and she named you as a co-conspirator. My world tilted. What? It's a preemptive strike. She's trying to control the narrative. The article goes live tomorrow morning. By noon, your name will be everywhere. But I'm not. I know. But we need to move fast. What did you find at the house? Everything. Audio recordings of Eric planning to frame me. Fake passports. Flight plans to Argentina. Bank statements showing the money trail. All of it. Can you bring it to me?
Now. Yes.
I'm leaving right now. I grabbed my laptop bag, loaded it with the USB drive Harris had given me, and printed copies of the most damaging documents. I was halfway to the door when my phone rang again.
Eric.
My heart hammered. Should I answer? If I didn't, would he get suspicious? I answered.
Eat.
Hey, babe. Quick question. Did you go into my study today? Ice flooded my veins.
No.
Why? Nothing. Just thought I left some papers out. Must have been this morning before I left. A pause. You sound weird. Everything okay?
Fine.
Just watching a sad movie. Okay. Well, I'll let you get back to it. Love you. Love you too. I hung up and stood frozen in our hallway. He knew, or suspected. Either way, I was running out of time. I grabbed my keys and ran for my car. But as I reached for the door handle, I noticed something. A small device attached under the wheel well. A tracker. He'd been tracking my movements. Probably for months. My mind raced. If I removed it, he'd know I found it. If I left it, he'd know exactly where I was going. I made a decision. I pulled it off and placed it on a delivery truck parked across the street. Let him follow that for a while. Then I got in my car and drove to meet Detective Harris, watching my rearview mirror the entire way, wondering if this was the moment everything would finally explode. I met Detective Harris at his office, not the diner. He took one look at my face and ushered me inside quickly. "You found it all," he said. It wasn't a question. I handed him the USB drive and the documents.
Audio recordings.
He planned everything. The fake passports, the accounts in my name, the flight to Argentina. He was going to make it look like I ran, or like we ran together. Harris plugged in the drive and started listening to the audio files. His expression grew darker with each recording. "This is good, Mrs. Davis. This is exactly what we needed. With these recordings, we can prove you were being set up. But Tara's article comes out tomorrow. Everyone will think I'm guilty before you can prove otherwise. Which is why we're moving tonight." He picked up his phone. "I'm calling the FBI. We're going to execute search warrants on Eric's office, your home, and Tara Quinn's apartment simultaneously. And we're bringing them both in for questioning. Tonight? But Eric's in New York." "Is he?" Harris pulled up something on his computer. "We've been monitoring his phone. According to GPS data, he never went to New York. He's been in the city this entire time, at an address registered to Tara Quinn." The betrayal cut deeper. He'd lied about the trip entirely. He'd been with her, probably planning their next move. Probably laughing about how gullible I was. "We need to move before they realize we're onto them," Harris continued. "Can you go home and act normal? We need Eric there when we execute the warrant. What if he knows I was in his study? What if he's already running? Then we'll catch him at the airport. But I'm betting he's cocky enough to think he's still in control. These types always are." I drove home with my heart in my throat. The house was dark when I arrived. I parked in my usual spot, walked to the door with my usual gait, unlocked it with steady hands. Inside, I turned on lights, microwaved leftovers I had no intention of eating, and tried to look like everything was normal. But every few minutes, I checked my phone, waiting for Harris's signal. At 9:30, I heard a car in the driveway. Eric's car. He walked in with a smile, carrying his overnight bag, the one he hadn't actually needed since he'd never left the city. "Hey, babe. Flights got canceled, so I just drove back. Hope you don't mind." He kissed my cheek. His lips felt like ice. "Of course not. I'm glad you're home." We sat on the couch together. He turned on a basketball game. I pretended to watch, but all I could think about was the army of federal agents that was supposedly coming.
"When?"
"How much longer?" "You seem tense," Eric said, his hand on my knee. "Long day. Tired. Want to go to bed early?" "Sure." We were walking toward the bedroom when someone knocked on the door. Hard. Official. Eric froze. Who would that be at this hour? "I don't know." He went to the door, and I followed, my heart hammering so hard I thought he might hear it. Through the window, I could see figures.
"Lots of them."
Men in FBI jackets. Eric's face went white. He grabbed my arm. "Don't answer it. We need to." The door burst open. Agents flooded in, shouting commands, weapons drawn. "Michael Davis, step away from your wife. Hands where we can see them." Eric released me and stumbled backward. "This is a mistake. You can't." On the ground.
"Now."
They forced him down, cuffing his hands behind his back. He twisted to look at me, and in his eyes I saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine fear. "Maya," he said, his voice cracking. Tell them this is insane. We didn't do anything. Mr. Davis, you have the right to remain silent." "Maya." He was shouting now as they dragged him to his feet. You think you're clever? You think they won't come for you too? This is your fault. Your fault. His words echoed through the house as they took him away. Other agents were already spreading through our home, photographing, collecting evidence, opening drawers and closets. Detective Harris appeared at my side. Are you all right? I couldn't speak. I just nodded. We're executing warrants at Tara Quinn's place and his office simultaneously. By morning, we'll have everything we need.
He paused.
You did the right thing, Mrs. Davis. You saved yourself.
But I didn't feel saved.
I felt hollowed out. Empty. After the agents left, taking boxes of evidence, Eric's computers, files from his study, I sat alone in the wreckage of my living room. Papers scattered everywhere. Drawers left open. The physical manifestation of my shattered life. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You'll regret this. I stared at it.
Tara?
Someone else from Eric's network? Or just Eric, using a burner phone before they took it away? I didn't respond. I just sat there in the silence, watching dawn break through the windows, knowing that by the time the sun was fully up, my name would be in the news, my life would be public, and nothing would ever be the same again. The headlines hit at 7 a.m. sharp. Local businessman arrested in international money laundering scheme. FBI raids home of alleged criminal couple in financial fraud case. Wife's role questioned in multi-million-dollar laundering operation. My phone started ringing at 7:05. I turned it off. By 8, there were reporters on my lawn. I closed all the curtains and sat in the darkness of my living room, listening to them call my name, asking for a statement, demanding to know if I was complicit. At 9, Helen showed up. She pounded on my door so hard I thought she might break it. Maya, open this door right now. I didn't move. I know you're in there. What have you done? What have you done to my son? Her voice was shrill, breaking. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. He's innocent. Eric would never. He's being framed. You did this. You turned them against him. She kept screaming for 10 minutes before someone, a neighbor, maybe, or one of the reporters, convinced her to leave. I heard her car peel away, tires squealing. At 10, Detective Harris called. I answered because he was the only person I trusted. Mrs. Davis, I need you to come down to the station. The FBI wants to interview you formally. Am I being arrested?
No.
But we need your statement on record. And I think it's better if you're somewhere other than your house right now. He was right. The reporters weren't leaving, and I couldn't hide forever. A police car picked me up at the back entrance of my neighborhood. We drove to the federal building downtown, and Harris met me at a side entrance away from cameras. Inside, in a small gray room with a table and recording equipment, I told them everything. From the moment Eric announced he'd sold my jewelry to the morning I found the USB drive with his recorded confessions. 2 FBI agents listened, taking notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Did you ever authorize your husband to use your social security number for financial transactions?
No.
Did you know about the offshore accounts? Not until Detective Harris showed me. Did you ever meet Rashid Al-Mansouri or anyone associated with his organization?
No.
I didn't even know he existed until a few days ago. They asked about the fake passports, the planned flight to Buenos Aires, the hotel receipts. Every question felt like reopening a wound. After 3 hours, they finally stopped. The lead agent, a woman named Torres, said, Mrs. Davis, based on the evidence we've collected and your testimony, we don't believe you were a knowing participant in your husband's activities. However, you'll need to remain available for further questioning as the investigation continues. Am I free to go?
Yes.
But I'd advise you to get a lawyer. A good one. Tara Quinn's attorney is already spinning a narrative that you were more involved than you're claiming. But the recordings? I know. We have them. But this is going to get messy before it gets clean. Protect yourself. Harris drove me home. The reporters were still there, but fewer now. They swarmed the car as we pulled up, shouting questions, cameras flashing. Mrs. Davis, did you know about your husband's criminal activities? Are you facing charges? How do you respond to Tara Quinn's allegations? Harris helped me through them, his hand firm on my back. Once inside, he made sure all the doors were locked. "This will die down in a few days," he said. "Once the next news cycle starts. For now, stay inside. Don't talk to anyone. And get that lawyer." After he left, I finally looked at my phone. 73 missed calls. Texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Emails from reporters. And one message that made my blood freeze. It was from Tara Quinn's public Instagram account, posted 2 hours ago. A photo of her wearing my grandmother's diamond necklace. The caption read, "Sometimes the most valuable things come from the most unexpected places. #new beginnings, #justice."
She was taunting me. Publicly.
Wearing my stolen jewelry while claiming to be a victim. I called Detective Harris immediately. "She has my necklace. My grandmother's necklace. It's in the photo she just posted. I saw it. We're on it. That's evidence of receiving stolen goods. It actually helps our case against her. I want it back. You will get it back. Eventually. Right now it's evidence." "Detective, she's destroying me. That article made me sound like a criminal mastermind. And now she's wearing my jewelry like some kind of trophy." "I know. And I'm sorry. But the truth will come out. The recordings prove Eric was setting you up. We have bank records showing you had no access to any of the accounts. Your forged signatures are obvious under forensic analysis. You're going to be okay." But I didn't feel okay. I felt like I was drowning. Over the next few days, more details emerged. The news reported that Eric had been moving money for multiple clients, not just Al-Mansouri. There was a whole network, criminals from 3 continents using his services to clean their money. The FBI found the storage unit rented in my name, full of fake antiquities. They found accounts in the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, and Panama, all with my forged signature. They found emails Eric had written to himself from a fake account pretending to be me, discussing business opportunities. He'd been meticulous. Every piece of evidence designed to make me look guilty if things went wrong. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd been too confident. He'd recorded himself talking about the setup. He'd kept documents showing the forgeries. He'd left a trail that proved his guilt and my innocence, if you knew where to look. The problem was, not everyone was looking. The media loved the story of the criminal couple. Headlines speculated about whether I'd been a willing participant or a victim. Talk shows debated my guilt. Social media tore me apart. I couldn't go to the grocery store without being recognized. Couldn't check my email without finding hate messages. My mother had to disconnect her phone because reporters kept calling her. A week after Eric's arrest, I got a visitor. A lawyer named Patricia Chun, recommended by Detective Harris. "I'll be honest with you, Mrs. Davis," she said, sitting in my living room with a briefcase full of documents. "The government believes you're innocent. But public opinion is split. And if this goes to trial, even as a witness rather than a defendant, you're going to be dragged through hell." What do? We build our own case. We document everything. We show not just that you're innocent, but that you were specifically targeted and victimized. We make you sympathetic, not suspicious. I don't want to be sympathetic. I want to be vindicated. She smiled slightly. Then we'll do both. Over the next days, Patricia helped me organize everything. Every document, every timeline, every piece of evidence. She interviewed my friends, my family, people who could testify that I had no knowledge of Eric's activities. We built a narrative. The loyal wife, slowly discovering her husband's deception, brave enough to help authorities even though it meant destroying her own marriage. It wasn't exactly how I felt. I felt angry, betrayed, foolish, but it was what people needed to hear. 2 weeks after the arrest, the prosecutor's office made an announcement. I would not be charged. The evidence clearly showed I was a victim of identity theft and spousal manipulation. But Tara Quinn's lawyer fired back. "Mrs. Davis may claim innocence, but our client has information suggesting she knew more than she's admitting. The truth will come out at trial." It never ended. Even when I was cleared, there was always another accusation, another implication, another attack. That night, I received another message. This time on my doorstep, An envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with typed words. He warned you. You should have stayed quiet. This isn't over. I called Detective Harris immediately. He came over with a forensics team. They collected the envelope, analyzed the paper, checked for fingerprints. Probably Tara, Harris said. Or someone working with her. She's desperate. Her immunity deal fell through when we found evidence she was more involved than she claimed. Now she's facing serious charges, and she's lashing out. Is she dangerous? I don't think so. She's a con artist, not a violent criminal. But we'll increase patrols around your house just in case. After everyone left, I sat alone again. The silence of my house felt oppressive. Everything reminded me of Eric. His chair, his coffee mug still in the sink, his jacket hanging by the door. I'd been living in a lie for 7 years. Sleeping next to a man who saw me as nothing more than a convenient patsy. Trusting someone who was planning my destruction from the very beginning. How do you come back from that? How do you ever trust anyone again? I didn't have answers. All I had was rage and determination. Eric and Tara had tried to destroy me. They'd failed. Now it was my turn. The threats escalated quickly after that first note. 3 days later, I walked out to my car to find all 4 tires slashed. The police came, filed a report, said they'd investigate. But there were no security cameras on my street, no witnesses. Nothing. Detective Harris insisted I move to a safe house. Just until the trial, he said. Once Eric and Tara are convicted, whoever's doing this will stop. The safe house was a small apartment in a nondescript building 40 minutes outside the city. Beige walls, basic furniture, a view of a parking lot. It felt like a cell, but at least I could sleep without jumping at every sound. I spent my days reviewing evidence with Patricia, preparing for depositions, trying to rebuild some semblance of a life. My employer had put me on paid leave until things settled down, they said, which was corporate speak for, we don't want the negative publicity. My friends stopped calling. Most of them, anyway. They'd say they believed me, but I could hear the doubt in their voices. The question underneath everything. How could you not know? That question haunted me too. How had I not seen it? There must have been signs. Red flags I'd ignored or explained away. But love makes you blind. Or maybe it makes you complicit in your own deception. You want to believe so badly that you refuse to see the truth even when it's right in front of you. For weeks after Eric's arrest, Tara Quinn tried to visit me at the safe house. Security called to ask if I wanted to see her. I almost said no, but curiosity won. They brought her to a meeting room on the first floor. She looked different than in her photos, smaller somehow, less confident. Her expensive clothes were wrinkled, and she wasn't wearing makeup. "Thank you for seeing me," she said quietly. I didn't respond, just stared at her. "I know you hate me. You should. I did terrible things." She twisted her hands together. "But I need you to know something. Eric destroyed me too. I don't want to hear this. He loved you, you know." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "Really loved you. He talked about you all the time. Said you were the only good thing in his life. And yet he planned to frame me for his crimes. Because he was a coward. Because when things got bad, he panicked." She leaned forward. "Maya, they're offering me a deal. Testify against Eric, serve 5 years instead of 20. But my lawyer says to get the best deal, I need to implicate you too." My blood went cold. "Then why are you here?" "Because I'm tired of being used. By Eric, by my lawyer, by everyone." She wiped her eyes. "I'm not going to lie about you. I'm going to tell the truth, that you didn't know anything. That Eric manipulated both of us. Why should I believe you? Because I'm already going to prison. I have nothing to gain by helping you except the chance to do one decent thing before my life is completely over." We sat in silence for a moment. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. "I wanted to give you this." She unwrapped it. My grandmother's necklace. "How?" "I still have some friends. People who owe me favors. I got it from the evidence locker." She placed it on the table between us. "It's yours. Take it." I stared at the diamonds, remembering my grandmother's hands fastening them around my neck on my 16th birthday. You're stealing evidence from me? I'm returning what was stolen from you. She stood.
I'm sorry, Maya.
For all of it. I wish I could undo everything. After she left, I sat holding the necklace, trying to process what had just happened. Was Tara being genuine? Or was this some kind of trick? I called Detective Harris. She gave you evidence? That's a federal crime. For both of you. I didn't ask her to. I know. But you need to return it. Bring it to me immediately. I met him at his office an hour later. He took the necklace, shaking his head. Tara Quinn is either genuinely remorseful or playing a very long game. Either way, this complicates things. She said she's going to testify that I'm innocent. Then maybe she's real. Or maybe she's hoping for a lighter sentence by appearing cooperative. Time will tell. That night at the safe house, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Tara had said. He loved you, you know. Did he? Could someone who loved you plan your destruction? Could they look you in the eye every day while building a case to send you to prison? Maybe Eric had convinced himself it was love. Maybe in his twisted logic, he was protecting himself so he could eventually take care of me from afar. Or maybe Tara was wrong. Maybe he'd never loved me at all.
My phone rang.
Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Maya. Eric's voice. Calling from jail. How did you get this number? Doesn't matter. I need you to listen. You're in danger. From you? From Victor. Remember the recordings? Victor Lang? He wasn't just a client. He was undercover DEA. And now that everything's falling apart, the people he was investigating think you're working with the feds too. My heart raced. That's not. I know. But they don't. They think you were part of the sting. That you and Victor set me up together. His voice dropped. They've put a price on your head, Maya. $50,000 to anyone who takes you out. You're lying. I wish I was. I'm calling because despite everything, I don't want you dead. You need to talk to Harris. You need protection. Real protection. Why should I believe anything you say? Because I'm looking at 20 years minimum. I have nothing to gain by lying to you now.
He paused. I'm sorry.
For all of it. I never wanted it to end like this. But you planned it to end with me in prison. Silence. Then, I panicked. When the investigation got close, I thought if they came for me, at least you'd be okay financially. The Buenos Aires account was real. It has $2 million. It was supposed to be for both of us. But you were going to leave me behind to take the fall. I don't know. I don't know what I was going to do. I couldn't think straight. His voice broke. Maya, I know you'll never forgive me. But please be careful. These people don't care about collateral damage. They'll kill you just to send a message. He hung up. I immediately called Harris. He had Victor Lang brought in for questioning, and within 6 hours they'd confirmed it. There was a contract out on me. The cartel Eric had been working with believed I was an informant. We're moving you again, Harris said. Different state. New identity. Until we can round up everyone involved. For how long? However long it takes. I packed what little I had at the safe house. As federal marshals drove me to a new location, I wasn't even told where until we arrived. I watched the city disappear in the rearview mirror. Everything I'd known was gone. My home, my job, my identity, my sense of safety. All destroyed by a man I'd trusted with my heart. And somewhere out there, people I'd never met wanted me dead. 3 months. That's how long I lived in witness protection in a small town in Montana, going by the name Sarah Miller, working at a coffee shop, pretending to be someone else. 3 months of constant fear, looking over my shoulder, wondering if every stranger was a threat. But I wasn't idle. While I couldn't leave, I could still work. Patricia sent encrypted files, and I spent my nights going through Eric's financial records, looking for the one thing we hadn't found yet, the Sapphire Ledger. It was mentioned in several emails, but never explained. Some kind of master document that tracked all of Eric's transactions. If we could find it, we could prove everything. I worked backwards through the data, following digital breadcrumbs. Coded references, numbered accounts, offshore holdings. It was like a puzzle with pieces scattered across continents. Then, at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, I found it, hidden in a subfolder within a subfolder labeled Garden Plans 2024. It was a spreadsheet with hundreds of entries, each one detailing a transaction, the source of dirty money, how it was cleaned, where it ended up, and who profited. But the revelation that made me stop breathing, the account holder names. The sapphire ledger wasn't in Eric's name or mine. Every account, every transaction, led back to a single entity, TQ Holdings.
Tara Queen.
She wasn't just Eric's partner. She was the owner. He'd been working for her all along. I called Detective Harris immediately, despite the hour. I found it, the sapphire ledger. Everything's under Tara's name. Send it to me.
Now.
I uploaded the files through the secure portal. Within an hour, Harris called back. This changes everything. Tara wasn't a recruiter. She was the mastermind. Eric was her money manager. She set up the entire operation and used him as the front man. So, when she offered to testify against him, she was trying to eliminate the one person who could expose her. If Eric went to prison and you were discredited, she could disappear with all the money. What about the immunity deal? It's over. The prosecutor's office is filing new charges against her tomorrow. She's looking at life in prison now. The next day, federal agents arrested Tara Quinn at her attorney's office. She fought, screaming that she was the victim, that Eric had forced her into everything, that I had helped plan it all. But the sapphire ledger was irrefutable. Every transaction traced back to her. Every account was in her control. Eric had been smart enough to keep records proving she was in charge. 2 days later, I got a call from Patricia. Tara's attorney wants to make a deal. She'll plead guilty to all charges in exchange for Eric receiving a reduced sentence and you receiving a formal apology from the prosecutor's office. Why would she do that? Because Eric's agreed to testify about the cartel connections. With his testimony, the FBI can bring down the entire network. That's worth more to them than maximum sentences for Eric and Tara. So they both get deals? Eric gets 30 years instead of life. Tara gets 15 instead of life without parole. And you get your life back. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted them both to rot in prison forever. But another part just wanted it to be over. What about the contract on me? With Eric's testimony, the cartel leadership is being arrested as we speak. 12 people in 4 countries. The contract is void. For the first time in months, I felt something like relief. The trial happened 6 weeks later. I testified about the forged signatures, the manipulation, the systematic way Eric had built a case against me. Eric testified about Tara's operation, the cartel connections, the money trails. Tara, through her attorney, pleaded guilty to all counts. On the final day, the judge addressed the courtroom. This case represents a profound betrayal of trust. Mr. Davis, you systematically manipulated your wife, forging her identity to shield yourself from criminal liability. Ms. Quinn, you orchestrated a criminal enterprise that victimized not only financial institutions, but innocent individuals caught in your web. Mrs. Maya Davis, however, has been cleared of all suspicion. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that she was a victim, not a participant. The judge sentenced Eric to 30 years in federal prison. Tara received 15 years. As they were led away in handcuffs, Eric looked at me one last time. His expression was unreadable. Regret? Anger? Resignation? I didn't care anymore. After the trial, Detective Harris walked me to my car, my real car at my real home, living under my real name again. The department's officially closing the case, he said. You did more than survive, Mrs. Davis. You exposed an entire criminal network. 3 cartels, 18 co-conspirators, over $50 million in seized assets. You should be proud. I just wanted my jewelry back. He smiled.
About that.
He handed me a package. Inside was my grandmother's necklace, my wedding earrings, even the cheap friendship bracelet I thought was lost forever. Everything except the pieces that had been sold to buyers who couldn't be traced. We recovered what we could from evidence lockup. The rest was liquidated by Eric's Victims' Compensation Fund. You'll receive a settlement, about $40,000. It wasn't the sentimental value, but it was something. Thank you. For everything. You saved yourself, Mrs. Davis. I just helped you see the path. That night, I sat alone in my house, which was truly mine now after the forensic accountants untangled the mortgage fraud. I held my grandmother's necklace up to the light, watching the diamonds catch and scatter the glow from the lamp. 7 years of my life had been built on lies. But I'd survived. More than survived. I'd fought back. 2 weeks later, I received a letter. The return address was a federal prison in Pennsylvania. Eric's prison. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won again. Inside was a single page, handwritten. Maya, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I need you to know that some of it was real. The early years before everything got complicated, those feelings were real. I did love you. I just loved money more. That's not an excuse. There is no excuse for what I did. But I wanted you to know that in another life, in another version of myself, I would have been the husband you deserved. I'm glad you're free. I'm glad you fought back. You were always stronger than I gave you credit for. I hope someday you find happiness again. Real happiness, with someone who deserves you.
I'm sorry.
Eric. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Not to treasure, but to remember. To remind myself that charm can hide cruelty. That love without honesty is just another kind of lie. And that the person who knows you best can also be the person who hurts you worst. 3 months after the trial, I got a call from an attorney in Dubai. Mrs. Davis? I'm calling about assets recovered from the Al-Mansouri investigation. Among the items seized was a piece of jewelry registered under your name, a diamond necklace. I already got my necklace back. This is a different piece. According to our records, it was purchased by Mr. Al-Mansouri from a dealer named Dmitry Volkov. The original documentation listed you as the previous owner, though we've confirmed that was fraudulent. So, why are you calling me? Because international law requires us to return seized assets to their rightful owners when fraud is involved. The necklace is yours if you want it, or we can sell it and send you the proceeds. How much is it worth? Approximately $80,000. Eric had bought it with my stolen jewelry, sold it at an inflated price to a criminal, and now, through a strange twist of justice, it was coming back to me. Sell it, I said. Donate half to a women's shelter for domestic abuse survivors. Send me the other half. As you wish, Mrs. Davis. 6 weeks later, a check arrived for $40,000. Combined with the victim's compensation, I had enough to start over properly. Not rich, but stable.
Free.
I put the house on the market, too many bad memories. I took a new job in a different city, somewhere no one knew my story. I started therapy to process the trauma. I began slowly to rebuild. On the 1-year anniversary of the day Detective Harris first knocked on my door, I drove to the coast. I stood on a cliff overlooking the ocean, wearing my grandmother's necklace. The wind whipped my hair, and the sun was setting in brilliant oranges and pinks. I thought about everything I'd lost, everything I'd survived, everything I'd learned. Eric had sold my jewelry to cover his lies. But in the end, it wasn't the gold or the diamonds that made me rich. It was something he could never take from me. My will to survive. My refusal to be destroyed. My determination to find the truth, no matter the cost. I touched the necklace at my throat, the one thing I'd managed to save from the wreckage of my marriage, and I made a promise to myself. Never again would I let someone else define my worth. Never again would I ignore my instincts to keep the peace. Never again would I mistake control for love. I was Maya Davis, survivor, fighter, free woman, and I was finally, truly mine again. I took the necklace off and held it in my hands one last time, feeling its weight, its history, my grandmother's love imbued in every facet. Then I carefully placed it in my purse. This necklace had traveled through hell and back. It had been stolen, sold, used to commit crimes, recovered as evidence, and finally returned. Just like me. But unlike me, it was just an object. Beautiful, valuable, sentimental, but still just a thing. I didn't need it to remember who I was. I didn't need it to prove I'd survived. I turned away from the ocean and walked back to my car. Tomorrow I'd start my new job. Next week I'd close on my new apartment. Next month I'd maybe try dating again. Carefully, slowly, with my eyes wide open. The past year had taught me that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. That I could face the worst betrayal and come out the other side. That truth, no matter how painful, was always better than comfortable lies. As I drove away from the coast, the setting sun in my rearview mirror, I thought about Eric in his prison cell. About Tara and hers. About the life they'd thrown away for money that was never really theirs. And I felt something unexpected. Pity. They'd lost everything that mattered chasing things that didn't. While I'd lost everything that didn't matter and found what did. Myself. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Dinner this weekend? I'm making your favorite. I smiled and typed back. I'll be there. Life was waiting. Real life. Honest life.
Mine.
And I was ready for it. In the end, the most valuable thing stolen from me wasn't jewelry. It was my trust. But the most valuable thing I found was something no one could ever take. My strength to rebuild. If this story made you think twice about trust, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the lies we tell ourselves and the truth that sets us free.